The first sound is not of engines, but of breathing. Ragged, controlled, amplified inside the oxygen mask. The slow, mechanical hiss of oxygen flow, the thrum of blood in his own ears. Captain Mark Volkov opens his eyes. He is not in a cockpit. For a disorienting second, he is nowhere. Then the world resolves. The curved glass of the canopy. The cold, dark green of the instrument panel, illuminated by soft, ghostly red light. The worn leather of the stick grip under his gloved fingers. The smell of oil, metal, and his own sweat. He is in the belly of his Yak 3, suspended in a void. Below, the earth is a formless black sheet. Above, an infinite star-dusted velvet. But on the eastern rim of the world, a sickness spreads. A faint, luminous bruise of pre-dawn, leaching the darkness, turning it to slate gray. It is a beautiful, terrible sight. It means the night's fragile cover is gone. His headset crackles to life, shattering the isolation. Controller, over radio, static warn. Ghost, this is Nest. The woodpecker is wounded. Oil temperature critical. They are bleeding altitude. You are their only escort. Bring them home. Volkov doesn't respond immediately. He turns his head, a slow, deliberate movement. To his right, the silhouette of his wingman's aircraft is a darker patch against the dark sky. Lieutenant Sergei Petrov, Bumblebee. A kid with a laugh that sounds too young for this place. Volkov, over radio, voice a low gravel. Understood, Nest. Bumblebee, you copy? Bumblebee, over radio, tense but eager. I copy. Lead. I see the woodpecker's running lights. They're dragging. Ahead and below, Volkov spots them. The P-2 bomber, callsign Woodpecker, is a clumsy, struggling shape. Even from here, he can sense its distress. The rhythmic drone of its engines is wrong. One coughs, sputters, a metallic hiccup in the symphony of flight. A thin, greasy smear of smoke, visible only against the dying night, trails from its left engine nacelle. It is a beacon of vulnerability. Volkov feels it before he sees it. A primal itch between his shoulder blades. A hollowness in the pit of his stomach that has nothing to do with hunger. It is the sky's warning. He scans the eastern glow, the place where light is born and death often comes from. He uses not just his eyes, but his whole being, reading the emptiness. The sun cracks the horizon. It is not a gentle sunrise. It is a violent eruption. A scalding blade of pure gold slices the world in two. It floods the cockpit, blinding, turning his instrument glass into sheets of fire. It transforms the high cloud banks into colossal, blinding white fortresses and plunges the lower sky into a deep, indigo abyss. And there, in that molten heart of light, they are born. Tiny black specks, 3 of them. Backlit, perfect silhouettes. They don't move. They hang, suspended in the inferno, as if forged in the sun itself. Volkov, over radio, absolutely calm. Contacts, 10 o'clock. In the sun, 3 bandits. Focke-Wulfs. The calm in his voice is a stone wall. Behind it, his mind is a storm of cold calculus. Angles of attack. Energy states. The lumbering woodpecker below, the kid on his wing, the sun, their enemy's greatest ally. Bumblebee, over radio, a sharp inhale. I see them. Gods. They're already diving. The specks elongate. They tip forward, falling from their celestial perch. The hunt is engaged. Volkov, over radio, command sharp as a whip. Bumblebee, break right on my mark. We take their focus. We bleed their speed. Do not, I repeat, do not engage for kill. We harass. We distract. Mark. Now. Both yaks snap into a violent, gut-wrenching right turn. The G-forces slam down, a giant's hand pressing Volkov into his seat. His vision tunnels, graze at the edges. He fights it, breathing hard against the pressure. Tracer fire, lurid green, like venomous spit, sizzles past his canopy, so close he feels the heat through the glass. The sky explodes into chaos. Volkov becomes pure instinct. He is not a man in a machine. He is the machine. The yak is an extension of his nervous system. He feels the buffet of turbulent air from a near miss, the shiver of the airframe as he pushes it to its limits. He leads a Focke-Wulf, the one painted with a garish yellow nose, into a descending spiral. The German is good, aggressive. But Volkov is better. He feints a climb, cuts throttle, drops his flaps for a terrifying second. A move that would stall a lesser plane. And suddenly he is behind and inside the enemy's turn. The Focke-Wulf fills his reflector sight. He can see the rivets on its fuselage, the black cross, the exhaust stains. It is a perfect, slow-moving target. His thumb finds the firing button on the stick. He feels the familiar, comforting vibration run up his arm as he presses. A deafening silence. No roar of cannons, no shudder of machine guns. Just the howl of the wind and the enemy plane, oblivious, beginning its evasive roll. A cold spike of pure terror drives into Volkov's spine. He glances down, a frantic motion. The ammunition counters. He hadn't checked. In the pre-dawn gloom, he'd missed them. They all stare back at him. Empty, red zeros. He has no ammunition. He has been fighting a duel with an empty gun. Bumblebee, over radio, screaming, raw panic. Ghost. He's on me. I can't shake him. Volkov tears his eyes from the damning dials. The second Focke-Wulf is locked onto Bumblebee's tail. Tracers are slicing the air around the young lieutenant's plane. The third enemy is high, a vulture circling, waiting. The yellow-nosed German, realizing he is not dead, recovers. He is now turning back, angry, confused, but alive. Volkov's mind whites out. The cold terror is replaced by a furnace of desperation. He has one wingman, one bomber, and nothing to fight with. Volkov, over radio, voice stripped of all emotion, a flat metallic command. Bumblebee, brake left hard. Now. Do not question. He doesn't wait. He shoves his throttle forward and pulls his yak into a climb, not towards safety, but towards the sun, towards the circling third vulture. It is a suicidal move, a bare, aggressive challenge. The vulture takes the bait. It peels off, diving to intercept him. But Volkov's eyes are not on it. They are on Bumblebee and his pursuer. The young lieutenant obeys, yanking his plane into a vicious left turn. The pursuing Focke-Wulf, skilled, mirrors the move, staying glued. And Volkov is there. He has no bullets, so he becomes one. He points the nose of his yak not at the enemy fighter, but at the narrow, murderous space between it and Bumblebee's fragile aircraft. He flies directly into that lethal corridor. He sees the German pilot's head snap up in his cockpit, sees the sudden, shocked recognition of a head-on collision course. It's a game of chicken in 3 dimensions, at 500 kilometers per hour. The Focke-Wulf flinches. It's a microsecond decision, a pilot's instinct for self-preservation overriding the kill instinct. It jerks its nose up, breaking off the attack. In that same fractured moment, the high vulture opens fire. Cannon shells rip through the air Volkov's plane just occupied. One finds its mark. Not a clean hit, but a savage, ripping blow along the tail section of his yak. The aircraft shudders violently, like a stabbed animal. The controls go sloppy, heavy in his hands. A new angry red light blossoms on the panel, rudder damage. And Bumblebee, free from his pursuer, makes a fatal mistake. He sees his leader under fire. He sees the vulture lining up for another shot. Heroism overrides training. Bumblebee, over radio, a wild yell. Get off him! Bumblebee's yak turns and accelerates, not to run, but to attack. He heads straight for the vulture in a hopeless, head-on pass. Volkov, over radio, a raw scream he doesn't recognize as his own. "No, Petrov! Break off!" That's an order. It's too late. Two aircraft merge into one point in the sky. There is no dramatic explosion. It is a terrible quick sound, a brutal crunching tear of metal, a flash of intense white light. Then silence. Debris, a spinning wheel, a piece of wing, torn canvas, floats in a expanding cloud. And from the heart of the wreckage a single white flower blooms. A parachute. It unfolds with agonizing slowness, swaying gently as it begins its long descent into the dark landscape below. Bumblebee is alive, but he is gone. The sky is suddenly unbearably quiet. The roar of engines is distant. The vulture, shaken by the collision, is climbing away, damaged. The yellow-nosed leader is regrouping. The one that flinched is turning back. Volkov's yak is wounded, heavy, responding like a drugged beast. The smell of scorched metal and fuel fumes fills the cockpit. His ears ring from the scream he let out. He is utterly alone. He looks at the woodpecker, still stubbornly, pathetically dragging itself westward. He looks at the two remaining Focke-Wulfs, now forming up again, their pilots undoubtedly communicating, trying to understand the chaos, sensing a wounded prey. He looks at his hands on the controls. They are steady. But inside a void is opening, a hollow, howling wind of utter helplessness. He has no bullets. His plane is crippled. His wingman is falling to earth. His charge is defenseless. The only weapons he has left are the broken aircraft around him, the vast, indifferent sky, and the mind inside his skull. A mind that must now find a way to turn terror into a weapon, to make emptiness look like overwhelming force. He takes a breath. The air is thin, cold, and tastes of metal and defeat. The hunt is over. A new game is about to begin. Silence is a noise. It's a high-pitched whine in Volkov's ears, louder than the struggling engine. It's the sound of the void where his wingman's voice used to be. It's the pounding of his own heart, a frantic drum against his ribs, threatening to crack them. The two Focke-Wulfs are not attacking. They orbit him, a cautious, predatory circle half a kilometer out. They are confused. They saw their comrade hit the kid's plane. They saw Volkov's insane near-collision maneuver. They see his damaged yak trailing a wisp of smoke from its tail. This is not normal Soviet behavior. A wounded plane should run. This one is not running. It's hovering. A predator's brain, faced with illogical prey, hesitates. It questions. Inside the cockpit, Volkov is disintegrating. His hands move with a life of their own, making minor corrections, keeping the damaged yak stable. But his mind is a shattered mirror. Fragments of thought slice through him. Bumblebees laugh in the ready room, the red zeros, the white flower of the parachute against the black earth, the woodpecker's coughing engine. His breath comes in short, sharp gasps that fog the inside of his oxygen mask. He is freezing and sweating at the same time. A violent tremor starts in his thigh, a useless biological short circuit. One of the Focke-Wulfs, the leader, breaks the orbit. It makes a slow, testing turn towards the woodpecker. A threat. A probe. The movement is like a bucket of ice water thrown into Volkov's soul. The panic, the grief, the guilt, they don't vanish. They are forced down, compressed under a titanic, terrible pressure. What rises to the surface is something else. Something ancient and cold. Not courage. Not heroism. It is the pure, calculating survival instinct of a cornered animal that knows its claws are gone. It must now bare its teeth in a snarl so convincing it becomes truth. His eyes fix on the enemy leader. He stops seeing a plane. He sees a psychology. He sees confidence tempered by caution. He sees questions that need wrong answers. His trembling stops. His breathing deepens, slows. The world outside sharpens, every detail etching itself into his consciousness. The angle of the sun, now a glaring eye above the cloud banks. The texture of the cumulus to the north, a solid fortress. The slight wobble in the leader's turn, a hint of impatience. Volkov does not run. He does not turn to defend the woodpecker directly. He does the opposite. He pushes the throttle forward. The wounded yak protests, a shudder running through its frame. He turns away from the woodpecker and the probing enemy. He turns towards the other Focke-Wulf, the one still orbiting, the wingman. And he begins to climb. Not a frantic climb. A slow, deliberate, arrogant climb. He points his nose up at a shallow, energy-efficient angle, as if he has all the time in the world. As if he is not damaged. As if he is not alone. The orbiting German wingman reacts immediately, tightening his turn, positioning himself behind Volkov. A classic tail chase. The perfect kill position. Volkov lets him have it. He lets the German settle into his 6 o'clock, the deadliest place in the sky. In his mind's eye, he can see the enemy pilot's finger curling around the trigger, the reflector sight centering on his fragile fuselage. Now. Volkov slams the stick left and kicks right rudder, a brutal skidding turn that abuses his damaged aircraft. It's not an evasive move. It's an offensive repositioning. He doesn't look back at his pursuer. He uses the turn to bring his own nose around in a wide arc, not towards the wingman chasing him, but towards the empty space ahead of the enemy leader, who is now nearing the woodpecker. To the German leader, the message is instantaneous and terrifying. The Soviet is ignoring his own imminent death to line up a killing shot on him. Volkov's body becomes an instrument of the lie. He cranes his neck, not in fear, but with the exaggerated, deliberate motion of a gunner tracking a target. He focuses his entire being on a point in space ahead of the leader's Focke-Wulf, his eyes narrowed, his head perfectly still. He is no longer a pilot fleeing. He is a sniper acquiring. In that moment, he becomes the threat. The enemy leader's plane flinches. It aborts its run on the woodpecker and breaks hard left, dumping altitude, presenting its thinner profile. He expects the tracers to tear into him any second. Nothing comes. The silence is more deafening than any cannon blast. Volkov holds the pose for a second longer, selling the illusion. Then, as if dissatisfied with the angle, he breaks off his own turn, leveling his wings. He is now side-on to the confused wingman who was on his tail. He turns his head slowly, deliberately, and looks directly at the enemy fighter, as if just noticing it, as if it were a minor nuisance. His hand reaches down, not to the radio, but to a dummy lever on his console, making a show of toggling something. A pretend weapon selection. A theatrical gesture for an audience of one. The wingman, unsettled by his leader's sudden panic and this Soviet pilot's bizarre, fearless behavior, pulls up sharply, widening the distance. He is no longer an attacker. He is an observer trying to understand a new, dangerous puzzle. Volkov's heart is a frozen stone in his chest. The G-force from the skidding turn has aggravated his wounds. A sharp, hot pain stitches his side where the harness dug in. He ignores it. He has made his first move in a game of celestial chess, where his pieces are made of smoke and perception. He has communicated one thing. I am not the prey. You are. He banks gently, placing the glaring sun directly behind his tail. He becomes a black, angular silhouette, shrouded in a halo of blinding light. Unapproachable. He begins a slow, patrolling turn between the two confused enemies and the lumbering woodpecker, a shepherd of pure menace. He keys his microphone. His voice, when it comes out, is not his own. It is calm, clear, devoid of all human fear. He speaks in Russian, knowing they might not understand the words, but they will understand the tone. The bored, professional tone of a hunter calling to his pack. Volkov, over radio, cool, conversational. Falcon 2, this is Ghost. Bandits are hesitant, holding position as bait. Move to coordinate. Engage at your discretion from the sun layer. Acknowledge. He releases the button. The silence on the radio is absolute. There is no Falcon 2. There is only the hiss of static. But in the cockpits of the two Focke-Wulfs, the silence is different. It is now pregnant with a terrifying possibility. The Soviet pilot is not talking to himself. He is coordinating. He called them bait. Where is the other one? Where is Falcon 2? Volkov watches the enemy leader's plane. It is no longer focusing on him or the bomber. It is scanning the empty, sun-drenched clouds above, its movements jerky, nervous. The trap, woven from nothing but nerve and illusion, has been sprung. The steel of it exists only in their minds. But in the sky, that is the only steel that matters. The lie hangs in the thin air, a phantom formation flying just out of sight. Volkov can feel its weight, a gravitational pull on the minds of the two enemy pilots. He has given them a ghost to fear. Now he must make that ghost breathe, move, and threaten. He becomes a conductor of an invisible orchestra. Every input to his damaged yak is deliberate, calculated theater. He does not fly to escape. He flies to project. He maintains a predatory, energy-conserving cruise between the sun and his enemies, a dark sentinel backlit by the inferno. He makes slight constant adjustments to his heading, not the jittery movements of a wounded bird, but the smooth, scanning turns of a predator surveying its domain, waiting for the perfect moment to signal the attack. The two Focke-Wulfs have broken their tight formation. They are now a loose, nervous pair flying higher, their canopies glinting as they constantly visibly scan the empty sky above and behind them. They are looking for Falcon 2. The enemy leader, disciplined, holds back. But the wingman, Volkov, can sense the young, aggressive impatience in his sharper turns, in the way he edges forward, then pulls back. He is the vulnerable one. He is the key. The pain in Volkov's side has settled into a persistent, hot throbbing that syncs with his heartbeat. His mouth is a desert. The taste of copper, fear, or a burst capillary from the G-forces lingers on his tongue. He focuses on these sensations, uses them as anchors to reality. The pain is a reminder he is alive. The thirst is a countdown timer. He must escalate. With a deliberate motion, he reaches up and switches his radio to an open frequency, one the Germans are certainly monitoring. He breathes slowly, evenly, into the microphone, letting the static carry the sound of his breath for 3 long seconds. Then he speaks, his Russian slow, clear, and utterly calm, as if giving a gunnery instructor a lesson. Volkov, over open radio. Confirm sight picture. Bandit 1, high aspect, slight drift right. Lead, you have the shot. I will flush him towards you. He releases the button. The silence that follows is electric. He immediately banks his yak not towards the enemies but away, as if clearing the field for another shooter. He then executes a shallow dive, picking up speed, and pulls up sharply into a chandelle, a climbing 180-degree turn that leaves him facing the opposite direction, now with the sun fully behind him, blinding anyone looking his way. To the German wingman, it is a catastrophic sequence of signals. First, the chillingly specific call-out of his position and movement. Then, the Soviet aces repositioning to act as a beater, a hunter driving game towards the hidden gun. His mind fills in the blanks. The other Soviet, the one he cannot see, is above, guns poised, waiting for him to panic and fly into the killing zone. The wingman breaks. He doesn't just turn. He snaps his Focke-Wulf into a violent, fuel-dumping evasion, a series of hard, desperate rolls and jinks, sacrificing all his tactical position and speed to avoid the phantom shot that must, at any second, tear him apart. It is a mistake born of pure, cooked-up terror. The enemy leader sees it. Volkov sees him see it. A fracture appears in the enemy's discipline. The leader's aircraft waggles its wings, a sharp signal. Reform! Hold position! But the wingman is in the grip of a panic Volkov manufactured. He is not listening. He is fleeing from a ghost, and in doing so he presents his flank, a beautiful, slow-moving target. This is the moment, the perfect, logical moment for Falcon 2 to strike, and nothing happens. The empty sky offers no roar of cannons, no streak of tracers. The silence stretches for 1 second. 2. It is a silence louder than any explosion. It is the sound of the lie cracking. Volkov sees the enemy leader's aircraft stabilize. The paranoid scanning stops. The German pilot's realization is almost physical in the air. There was no shot. There is no Falcon 2. The Soviet ace is alone. He has been playing a card game with no cards. A new, different kind of cold floods Volkov's veins. This is not fear. It is the ice of strategic doom. The bluff has been called by the most damning witness of all, reality. The enemy leader's Focke-Wulf suddenly drops its nose and accelerates, not towards Volkov, but in a slicing, confident dive towards the woodpecker. It is a move of pure contempt, a declaration. The game is over. I am ignoring your theater. I am taking your charge. The panicked wingman, seeing his leader's decisive action, recovers his nerve. Shame and rage replace his fear. He turns, not away, but towards Volkov, climbing to cut off any attempt to intercept his leader. Volkov is pinned. The woodpecker is seconds from being massacred. His mind races, discarding options. He cannot outrun the wingman to intercept. He cannot fight. He looks at the diving leader. He looks at the angry wingman closing in. He looks at the vast, useless sky. And then he sees it. Not with his eyes, but with the last desperate spark of his intuition. The wingman is angry. He is humiliated. He wants redemption. He wants a personal victory. He is not thinking about the mission or his leader. He is thinking about the Soviet pilot who made him flinch. Volkov does the unthinkable. He turns his yak directly towards the oncoming wingman, a head-on pass, but not the aggressive earlier challenge. This is different. He reduces his throttle. He lets his speed bleed off. He makes his damaged aircraft look slow, sluggish, vulnerable. He presents himself not as a threat, but as a wounded, easy target, a prize for the humiliated German to claim. He is offering himself as bait. The wingman takes it. Greed overrides orders. He aligns perfectly, his nose centered on Volkov's cockpit. This time, he will not flinch. This time, he will fire from maximum range and watch the Soviet explode. Volkov waits. He watches the distance close in the timeless, slow-motion calculus of a duel. He can almost see the German's finger tightening on the trigger. At the last possible second, a fraction of a moment before the German's guns would be effective, Volkov slams his throttle to the wall and yanks the stick back into his gut. The wounded yak screams in protest. The damaged tail shudders violently. But the engine, loyal to the end, responds. The aircraft stands on its tail, clawing for the sky in a near vertical, staggering climb. A torrent of cannon fire erupts from the German's plane, but it passes harmlessly beneath Volkov's climbing fuselage, a river of green light missing its target. And Volkov, hanging almost vertically, staring up at the infinite blue, performs his final, desperate act of theater. He keys the radio one last time. He doesn't speak. Instead, he lets out a short, sharp, controlled exhale. Not a sound of fear. It is the sound a hunter makes when his trap is sprung. The sound of effort, of finality. Then, still climbing, he rolls his yak inverted. For the German wingman, the world turns upside down. One moment, the Soviet is climbing away. The next, the Soviet is above him, inverted, his cockpit pointed down, his aircraft's belly exposed. And in that insane, vulnerable position, the Soviet pilot's head is tilted, looking directly down at him, as if he has all the time in the world, as if he is not avoiding death, but lining up for his own killing shot from an impossible angle. It is too much. The logic of the duel shatters. This is not a pilot following the rules of aerial combat. This is a madman, a phantom, a trickster god of the sky. The wingman, his confidence shattered for the second time, breaks off completely. He dives away, not in a tactical retreat, but in a frantic, undisciplined escape. But Volkov has no time for triumph. His inverted climb has stalled his damaged aircraft. The world spins, a dizzying blur of blue earth and white sky. He fights the stall, kicking rudder, pushing stick, his body slammed against his harness. As his plane tumbles through the top of the loop, righting itself, his eyes find the enemy leader. The leader is lining up his killing run on the woodpecker. He is seconds from firing. And he is all alone. His wingman is gone, fleeing south. The carefully constructed fiction of Falcon 2 is exposed. But in breaking the wingman, Volkov has created a new, powerful truth. He is no longer just an enemy. He is an unpredictable, insane force, and the leader is now alone with him. The game has not ended. It has entered its final, most desperate phase. One-on-one. A wounded fox with empty jaws, and a seasoned wolf who now knows the fox has no pack. But a fox that has just proven it is willing to rewrite the rules of the hunt. Reality is a pendulum. It had swung with the wingman's panic, bending towards Volkov's illusion. Now, with the wingman's disgraceful retreat, it swings back with vicious metallic certainty. The enemy leader is no longer a confused predator. He is a surgeon. The revelation that there is no hidden squadron has crystallized his focus into a single, cold point of rage. The Soviet ace's audacious theater has cost him the integrity of his wingman, his mission's clean execution, and now his professional pride. This will be settled personally. Volkov's yak falls out of its stalled maneuver, engines coughing, airframe groaning. He is a puppet with half its strings cut, dangling between the blue void and the green earth. His vision swims, the horizon tilting erratically. He fights for control, his muscles screaming, the fresh, hot agony in his side blooming with every jerky movement. He is not flying the plane anymore. he is wrestling it. And through the blur, he sees the leader's Volkov. It has abandoned its run on the woodpecker. The bomber is forgotten. The leader has turned his entire being towards Volkov. The approach is not a reckless dive. It is a slow, deliberate, terrifying advance. The German is conserving energy, positioning himself for a single, perfect, and utterly inescapable kill shot. He is done playing games. He is methodically closing the door on every remaining exit. Volkov's mind, starved of oxygen and flooded with adrenaline, scrabbles for purchase. The bluff of a hidden wingman is dead. The bluff of fearlessness is cracked. His aircraft is a dying beast. There is only one asset left, one he has not fully weaponized, the woodpecker itself. He keys his radio, his voice a shredded raw thing broadcasting on the open frequency the German will hear. Volkov, over radio, a strained, defiant rasp. Woodpecker, this is Ghost. Initiate. Contingency Zarya. Now. Climb. Maximum climb. Into the sun. Do not look back. It is a nonsense order. Contingency Zarya does not exist. But it is specific. It is urgent. It sounds like a pre-arranged, last-ditch protocol. In the battered cockpit of the PE-2, a bewildered navigator hears the command. The pilot, a man with minutes of fuel left, hears the absolute conviction in the ace's broken voice. He obeys. With a grinding protest of overstressed metal, the heavy bomber points its wounded nose upward towards the blinding solar disk. The enemy leader sees it. A flicker of hesitation. It's not much. A microscopic delay in his steady advance. His training wars with his experience. Why would a crippled bomber climb? It sacrifices speed, makes itself a better target. Unless it is not a retreat. Unless it is a move in a game he still doesn't understand. A rendezvous point. A signal. Volkov exploits the half-second of doubt. He does not try to run. He does the opposite. He points the nose of his staggering yak directly at the leader and accelerates. But this charge is different. It is not the confident attack of before. It is the desperate lurching charge of a mortally wounded animal. He lets the damage show. He lets the smoke from his tail thicken. He lets his aircraft yaw and wobble. He is not presenting a threat. He is presenting a tragedy. He is offering the German leader a choice. Finish the clever, annoying, dangerous fox quickly and easily, or pursue the cryptic, possibly strategic move of the bomber. Volkov watches the Focke-Wulf's nose. It wavers. For a critical moment, it is caught between two targets, the easy, satisfying kill of the ace and the unsettling, irrational climb of the bomber. The leader chooses pride. He commits to Volkov. A slight adjustment of his rudder, and his guns are definitively locked on the weaving, smoking yak. The decision is made. The Soviet ace dies now. This is what Volkov needed. A known variable, a personal duel. He has stripped the fight of all pretense and strategy. He has reduced it to its most primal form. One hunter, one prey, in an empty sky. But he is prey that knows the hunter's mind intimately. He stops trying to control the wobble. He exaggerates it. He lets his yak sag in the air, as if its last strings are snapping. He feigns a total loss of power, dropping his nose as if the engine has finally quit. He begins a shallow, helpless descent, a slow spiral towards the earth, an invitation to the kill. The leader takes it. He closes the distance with efficient, deadly grace. He is close enough now that Volkov, in his rearview mirror, can almost make out the shape of the pilot's helmet behind the enemy canopy. The German is taking no chances. He is positioning for a point-blank assured shot that will vaporize the yak. Volkov's hand, shaking violently, falls from the stick. It hangs limp at his side for a heart-stopping moment. A gesture of ultimate surrender, of final total systems failure. Inside the German cockpit, the leader's finger tightens on the trigger. A smile of grim finality might touch his lips. At that exact moment, Volkov's other hand, hidden from view, slams the throttle through the emergency gate. A last resort burst of raw, engine-killing power. Simultaneously, he kicks full left rudder and hauls the stick back with all his remaining strength. The dying yak does not climb. It does aileron rolls. A violent, corkscrewing sideways tumble directly in front of the leader's perfectly aimed gun sight. It is not an evasive maneuver. It is a physical obscenity. It makes the yak an impossible, writhing, unpredictable target. Cannon shells, meant for its heart, tear through empty air, or clip the very edge of a rolling wing. And for the German leader, the world dissolves into a nightmare. 1 second, a clean shot. The next, a chaotic, metal whirligig filling his vision. His instincts scream collision. He yanks back on his stick, his own plane surging upward to avoid smashing into the tumbling Soviet aircraft. The two planes miss each other by less than the length of a car. As the leader's Focke-Wulf shoots skyward, heart hammering against his ribs, he is left with a searing afterimage, not of a defeated enemy, but of a cockpit. In the instant of the tumble, as the Soviet plane rolled, he saw clearly inside. He saw the Soviet pilot, not slumped in defeat, not screaming in fear. The man was looking directly at him. His face was pale, etched with pain and exhaustion. But his eyes were utterly calm, calculating, and his lips were moving, not in a scream, in a single, silent, unmistakable word, shaped with deliberate clarity as the world spun madly around him. Checkmate. The Focke-Wulf levels off at a higher altitude. The leader is breathing in ragged gulps. The tactical part of his brain reports, the Soviet is now below, slower, even more damaged. An easy kill on the next pass. But the human part, the part that just stared into the abyss of that calm, speaking gaze, is screaming a different report. This is not a man, this is a phenomenon. A force that turns aircraft into arguments and desperation into a weapon. He has chased a ghost, been mocked by a phantom wingman, and now has been spoken to by a dead man walking. He looks down. The Soviet's yak has recovered from its tumble and is now limping, pathetically, towards the distant, shimmering line that marks the front. Towards home. He looks west. The bomber, the original target, is a small, dark speck, merging with the haze of the horizon, almost gone. He looks at his fuel gauge. He looks at his ammunition count. He looks at the vast, empty sky around him, which no longer feels empty, but charged with the lingering echo of a monstrous psychological violence. For the first time in the entire engagement, the enemy leader feels not anger, but a deep, chilling cold. The cold of being outplayed on a board he never agreed to play on. He makes a decision. It is not the decision of a warrior, but of a man who wants to exit a nightmare. He banks his Focke-Wulf smoothly, powerfully away to the east, towards his own lines. He does not look back. Below, Volkov watches the shadow of the enemy slide away from him, then vanish. He feels no relief. The void inside him is too vast. He can only stare at the approaching river line, a blur of green and brown, and mechanically guide his shattered plane towards it. A leaf finally falling to earth after the storm has passed. The silence is not peaceful. It is an immense roaring vacuum that swallows the world. The winds scream against the canopy, the labored, arrhythmic cough of his own engine. These are not sounds, but textures of a profound, deafening stillness. Volkov exists inside a glass jar, hurtling towards an edge he can no longer see. His body has become a museum of pain. Each exhibit is precise. The hot, focused knitting needle in his side, the deep, throbbing ache in his skull from oxygen starvation and G-force, the fiery tremor in his hands still locked around the controls. But these are distant things, reports from a country that no longer concerns him. All that concerns him is the line, a smudged, brown, and green scar on the earth. The front is no longer a place of danger, but a promise, an altar. He must deliver the plane to it. It is the final absurd objective in a mission that has shed all others. He does not look for the woodpecker. He does not scan the sky for returning enemies. His world has telescoped down to the trembling needle of the altimeter, the creeping hand of the airspeed indicator, the widening stain of dark fluid, oil, or hydraulic, blooming across his instrument panel. The descent is not controlled. It is a slow, grudging collapse. The earth, a vague tapestry from altitude, now resolves into terrifying detail. Individual trees become distinct. The geometric scars of trenches snake across the landscape. Puffs of black smoke, tiny and silent from here, dot the ground. He is descending into the war's maw. A new sound pierces his bubble. At first, it is a faint, insect-like drone. Then it sharpens into a rhythmic, pounding thump, thump, thump. Flak. Soviet anti-aircraft guns firing at an unidentified smoky aircraft limping across the sky. The black bursts of explosions begin to flower around him, not with accuracy, but with horrifying proximity. The concussion of a near miss slaps his aircraft, rattling his teeth. A piece of shrapnel spangs off the rear fuselage. He is being shot at by his own people. A sound escapes him, not a laugh, not a sob, but a dry, cracked exhalation that is the ghost of both. The final, perfect joke. To survive the duel, to break the hunter's will, only to be obliterated by friendly fire in sight of home. He has no radio power left to identify himself, no flares, no way to signal but to be what he is, a mortally wounded bird falling from the sky. He does not evade. He holds his course. The flak bursts walk closer. One fills his entire windshield with soot-black smoke for a second, leaving oily streaks on the glass. Then, a miracle of mundane horror. A different sound. The ripping cloth snarl of a machine gun from the ground. Tracers, red tracers, Soviet tracer rounds, arc up, not at him, but in a steady, disciplined stream just ahead of his port wing. A signal. A desperate, ground-level attempt to guide him, or to warn the gunners. Someone down there, in the mud and the death, is watching. Someone has seen his silhouette, the distinct shape of the yak, and is screaming with bullets for his life. The flak stops. The sudden cessation of the pounding is as shocking as its start. The airfield is not a welcoming sight. It is a ragged wound in the earth. Dirt runways, scattered camouflaged revetments, a few ragged tents. It looks tiny, impossibly small, a postage stamp rushing up to meet him. His landing is not a procedure. It is an act of will. The yak does not want to fly anymore. It wants to die. The controls are dead in his hands, the stick moving through syrup. He coaxes, he pleads, he forces. The ground surges up. He cuts the engine. The silence now absolute and terrifying. The wheels screech as they touch. A scream of tortured metal. The aircraft bucks, swerves violently to the left, the damaged tail refusing to hold alignment. He fights the skid, muscles cracking, the plane threatening to ground loop and snap into a fireball. It comes to a stop 10 meters from the edge of the runway, tilted, one wing low, in a cloud of its own dust and smoke. Silence. For a long moment, nothing moves. The dust settles. The metal of the engine ticks and pings as it cools. Volkov does not move. He stares straight ahead through the cracked, oil-smeared windshield at the brown grass of the field. His hands are fused to the stick and throttle. He cannot unclench them. Then, movement. Figures running from a dugout. Mechanics. A medic with a bag. Their faces are pale ovals of concern, then confusion. The first mechanic reaches the wing, his boots crunching on the dirt. He looks up at the cockpit, at the pilot who has not moved. He sees the hundreds of holes, the shredded metal of the tail, the oil soaking the fuselage. His eyes, wide with awe at the pilot's survival, travel along the leading edge of the wing towards the root. And he freezes. His expression changes. The awe drains away, replaced by slow, dawning incomprehension. He steps closer, squinting, as if unable to believe what he is, or rather is not, seeing. He turns and shouts to the others, his voice strangled, cutting through the quiet. "Mechanic, the guns! Check the guns!" Another mechanic scrambles onto the other wing. He peers at the aircraft's machine gun and cannon ports. He runs a finger along a barrel. It comes away clean. No powder residue, no heat blistering, no spent casings jammed in the ports. They are immaculate, pristine. They have not been fired. Not once. The realization moves through the ground crew like a physical wave. Their gazes snap from the weapons to the pilot in the cockpit. The sheer, catastrophic damage to the aircraft tells a story of an epic, prolonged battle. A battle of unimaginable intensity. But the guns tell a different story. A story of absolute, impossible silence. Volkov finally moves. With a supreme effort, he unlocks his fingers from the controls. He reaches up, fumbles with the canopy release. The mechanism groans, and the canopy grudgingly slides halfway back with a screech. The outside air floods in. It smells of earth, gasoline, and damp rot. The sounds of the war return. A distant rumble of artillery. The buzz of a distant aircraft. He does not look at the mechanics. He does not look at his plane. He pulls off his leather helmet and oxygen mask. His face is pale, etched with exhaustion. His eyes dark hollows. He moves slowly, painfully, unbuckling his harness, swinging his legs over the side of the cockpit. His boots hit the dirt. The ground feels unstable, liquid. He takes a step, stumbles, catches himself on the hot metal of the fuselage. His hand comes away black with soot and oil. He turns away from the aircraft and begins to walk. A slow, shuffling walk towards the command dugout, or perhaps just away from the thing that carried him home. He passes the mechanics. They do not speak. They do not salute. They simply stare, their tools hanging forgotten in their hands. They stare at the pilot walking away from the most violently used, yet completely unfired aircraft any of them has ever seen. Above, the sky is empty and vast, a clean, untroubled blue. The silence up there is now complete. Volkov does not look up. He keeps his eyes on the churned, muddy earth before his boots. Each step is an effort. Each breath is a victory. He carries the entire crushing weight of the empty sky on his shoulders. And he walks.